I thought, using my knowledge on intuition and the power of the mind, today's video felt really exciting for me, and I can't wait to dive into it. Welcome to the Connection Hub. My name is Vanessa, and I am here to connect you with your highest good, your highest self, and your highest source. In this video, I'm going to talk about top practices for cleansing the mind. 5 different categories of thought that I notice happening in my own mind, how to connect your intuition with your thoughts, and 3 top tools I use for working with the mind. But first, let's start talking a little bit about our intuition. Intuition is the ability to tune in and recognize our divine connection to source. And this happens through all of our senses, and the thoughts that happen in the mind are no different. I can describe intuition as a fully armed orchestra of sensations and knowings and ideas that happen in us, around us, awake or asleep. Through our thoughts and ideas, the mind will take every opportunity it has to bring us closer to our higher self and our divine truth. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining what I mean, because how on earth would a terrible sounding thought be bringing me any closer to my divine truth? Here are some top practices for cleansing the mind. Ditch the drugs. I know from experience that anytime I've turned to narcotics to open my mind up, I'm always met with the complete opposite effect the next day, if that's a hangover or a headache or just a foggy brain. A sober mind is a clear mind, and with a clear mind, we're able to discern and discover and really listen to the different things happening within our thoughts and our ideas. When using drugs to connect to source becomes a habitual practice, we end up in the same cycle, reaching for narcotics, thinking that we're connecting more clearly, waking up the next day and finding ourselves in a fog. As soon as I switched my habits from reaching to drugs to creating a sober mind for myself, I really appreciated what a sober mind had to do with my intuitive awareness and connection. At the same time, I also noticed that I wasn't being gaslit as often as I was previously, because when I was constantly in that cycle of opening myself up and then creating a foggy head, I was always battling with what is my reality and what isn't. Pause and notice unhealthy thoughts. Here are some common examples of unhealthy thoughts. I'm so stupid. I'm so fat. I'm single and all alone. I can't afford that. Fill in the blank. Catching unhealthy thoughts and stopping them in their tracks by turning them around and reaffirming something that is actually helpful, you can start unpacking them to discover more clearly what is no longer serving you. Facilitate your own healing. To cleanse the mind, you can always imagine a really bright light beaming into the crown chakra and all the way through to the core of the earth. When you facilitate your own healing, a really great archangel to call in would be Archangel Raphael. You could call in Archangel Michael for protection. You can call in Jesus. You can call in the Divine Mother. Call in Source. Be aware of your mental digestion. This is really speaking to the podcast you're listening to, the television that you're watching, or the movies, and even the social media streams that are coming up on your phone as you scroll throughout the day. Whatever it is, being mindful of the things that you're consuming mentally, because it will affect the other aspects of yourself. Affirmations and mantras. Affirmations and mantras are more than just some woo-woo phrases that we tell ourselves. They have the power to change our thoughts. And when we change our thoughts, we change our beliefs. And then we change our actions. From there, we end up changing our life. Affirmations and mantras are positive phrases that we feed ourselves. They are the seeds that get planted into our subconscious mind. And what the subconscious mind holds is over 90% of our reality. Here's a fun exercise. From now on, envision your mind as a sponge. The next time you're doing something, any activity, tune into your intuition and ask, What color of water is this activity? If the water appears to be clean and sparkly and pure, you know the sponge is soaking up clean water. If the activity is appearing to be muddy or dirty or murky, you know what your sponge is soaking up. Think about the things that you are feeding your mental state. Here are 5 different categories of thought. Repeating thought patterns. Repeating thoughts want to be heard and noticed. If the repeating thought is something along the lines of, I am so grateful for X, Y, and Z, the vibration to this thought is high, and it's not something that you should be in any rush to correct. But if the emotional link to a repeating thought is low, this would be a thought worth catching and correcting. Conflicting ideas. These thoughts or idea patterns impose more than one way of viewing or seeing a situation, and the mind just doesn't know how to keep up. Conflicting ideas push our beliefs and actions in one direction, and then they pull us into another. But the mind really works best when we have one clear view on what it is we desire or what it is we want to think. Here's an example of a conflicting idea. One minute you think to yourself, I am strong and healthy. And then the next minute you're eating a piece of cake and then you think to yourself, this is going to go straight to my thighs. These conflicting ideas bring the mind into purgatory. Am I strong and healthy? Or am I another version of myself where I'm going to see what I'm eating land directly on my body? When we want to see shifts and growth and change, and it doesn't take place maybe as quickly as we would like to see, a common factor to this is conflicting thoughts and ideas. Ego's thoughts. The thing is, when we resist and push away what the soul wants for us and we stay in this zone of comfort, we'll end up feeling probably miserable, defeated, we'll feel stuck. When we insist on listening to our ego, the general way we feel about our life is not very good. When I haven't been following my inspiration and I have been more insistent on listening to my ego instead, I am met with really great change. I really do see the ego as being a brilliant tool, and I believe that it's God's way of showing us how to walk away from discomfort and move more closely to fulfillment. Free will thoughts. These types of thoughts could present themselves as questions in our mind. We might notice something or experience something, and then we'll ask a question to understand it more fully and more clearly. For example, one afternoon, you notice that your stomach isn't feeling good. So in your mind, you pose the question, why is my stomach not feeling good? Our own free will thoughts in the forms of questions naturally guide us to intuitive understanding. Free will thoughts can be fantastic because they can be used for our growth and our evolution. But our free will thoughts can also be gathered from ideas and beliefs that other people around us have shared. These thoughts can sometimes leave a groove and a strong impression on the mind if it's not helpful. Intuitive thoughts. Intuitive thoughts can spring on you when you least expect it. They don't have to be bursting with inspiration and excitement, but instead they can also sound simple and helpful. For example, I could find myself sitting at my desk and working away, and then an intuitive thought lands in to my brain and suggests that I get up and I go downstairs and I make myself a cup of tea, allowing for more inspiration to come to me. Intuitive thoughts are always going to be helpful thoughts. They're going to be ideas that propel us and want to push us into the direction of change or growth or something it is we are meant to experience. The thoughts we have that are driven by our intuition are thoughts that will support our big and little picture dreams, from setting a plan at the top of our day to doing a forecast on what we want our life to look like over the next 3, 5, 10 years. Intuitive thoughts, no matter how simple they might be, will put us on track and lead us towards our highest and best good at all times. Our intuitive inspiration, our thoughts and ideas will always give us loving and guiding support. Connect your intuition with your thoughts. Through our intuition and our intuitive senses, we can really start seeing our thoughts for what they really are, allowing us to look through the illusion of the mind and into the heart. What is the heart communicating? I see thoughts as direct downloads of inspiration, as well as guiding ideas that we didn't even know we needed. If we can start organizing all of the action that takes place inside of the mind, we can really start propelling ourselves forward. Intuition is absolutely everything, including the thoughts we think. If we can slow down enough to even just start noticing our thoughts and the types of thoughts that are coming in, we can then lead ourselves towards healing and deeper understanding. So even when we have these ideas and thoughts that drag us down, we can connect that with our intuition and ask questions like, what do I need to do to work with this thought so that I can move on in my life? Tuning into our intuition and getting curious about the things that we're thinking will really elevate our experience on earth. This is combining the power of the mind with our ability to intuit and discern how to move forward. 3 top tools for working with the mind. Talking out loud and putting words to our thoughts. Talking out loud is one of those tools that I find works best with a friend I can trust or a therapist. When I can just talk about a problem at hand or whatever my mind is congested with, more often than not, I'm able to come to some sort of conclusion or see the larger picture. A person who can just sit and listen to me and not solve my problems or not give me advice allows me to clear out whatever is happening inside my mind. I also do this when I'm alone. I will talk out loud when I'm walking alone on walks. Journaling. This option is really helpful when it's super late and there's no one I feel I can talk to. I just pick up my notebook and I start writing, and I get out all of my feelings, all of my words, and I write down questions. And I'll just write and I'll write and I'll write. I'm either responding to my own questions on paper or I end up finding solutions a day or two later. The more we can dump what's in our mind out on paper, the more clarity we can actually find and the more space we can create than in the mind. I notice that when I do journal at night, I wake up remembering so much more of what it is I was dreaming, which leads me to believe the more we empty our mind, the more space we can create for intuitive guidance and downloads to stream through us while we're awake or asleep. Hypnotherapy. I'm a licensed hypnotherapist, and hypnotherapy has done amazing things for my brain, and I see how it's done amazing things for others. The subconscious mind is so much more in control of our life, of our experience, our actions, our thoughts, our ideas, that it is so important to figure out what's lying underneath the surface, because it's going to give us the clues as to why our life is the way that it is. Through this tool, you can work through conflicting thoughts and you can understand where repeating ideas come from. And you can even start harvesting new patterns, which would be much more fulfilling for your life. Allow for the power of the mind to work in your favor, and everything else will absolutely fall into place. Final thoughts. How we see the world and how we see experiences and life has everything to do with what the mind believes. The mind is the most powerful tool we have, and we can either view our thoughts as something that keeps us stuck and miserable, Or we can see that thought as a tool we can use, a seed that's been planted by the universe to propel us into a direction that will be so much more helpful. Viewing our thoughts requires a certain level of discernment and a willingness and a curiosity to see the thought for what it really is. Don't be fooled by your thoughts, but instead feel encouraged to categorize them and understand them and stop to question why they're happening. Ask yourself what thoughts are serving you. Ask yourself what thoughts are holding you back, and ask yourself what new thoughts you want to create for yourself. Until next time, get lost in joy and remember, you are always connected.